So in this video I'm going to cover a bunch of different things. So first and foremost, I'll give you an update on myself, on the channel, what's happening there, and I will also tell you a bit of a backstory with regards to how I got to this particular position where I am right now, the jobs I've had, the lessons I've learned, the mistakes I've made, and ultimately how I ended up doing street photography and how I ended up starting this YouTube channel. This video is also completely unscripted and I'm going to try my best to not waffle on too much, but I can't promise that last bit. So as you've probably gathered from the title, there's been some big changes in my life as well as in the future of this YouTube channel. So I have handed my notice in at work, and for the first time in my working life in the last 14 years, I am technically unemployed, or I don't have a standard sort of 9 to 5 day job income once I've worked my notice. And I will be directing all my attention, all my time towards building this YouTube channel and building this business around street photography and YouTube. That's all right. Oh. Huh. So with regards to how I got here today, so if we go back quite a while, when I was around 14, 13, I had my first job, which was working in a bike shop. I used to build bikes, service bikes, sell bikes, and that's how I sort of got into the downhill mountain biking, free ride mountain biking, that kind of stuff. Eventually I got a job at Halfords, and Halfords, if you don't know, is in the UK, it's like one of these shops that sells car air fresheners, car oil, wiper blades, that kind of stuff. I worked there for 5 years. Now, whilst I was working there, I also went to college and I did automotive repair, so basically to become like a automotive technician, to work in the garage, that kind of stuff, because I wasn't very academic, so to speak. After that, I went to university and I studied engineering, specifically motorsport engineering, because I had a fixation of working in motorsport, and I worked at that Halfords shop all that time. At that point, I did have like a few cameras here and there, but I'm talking basic point and shoots, and I definitely wasn't into photography. I then got a job in motorsport, which lasted for about 2 months because I realized just how crap it is and how much I didn't enjoy it. The money wasn't great, you were working like ridiculous hours, and I don't know, it just wasn't what I had it in my mind, so to speak. So I finished university, I'd done quite well at uni, I got first, and there wasn't sort of much in terms of jobs, and I didn't really know what to do. I then got approached by a headhunting company, like a London recruitment type place, and long story short, I got a job as a recruiter, or headhunter as they used to call it. And I lasted 1 month before I got sacked because I just didn't understand how anyone in their right mind could sit in a cubicle for 10 hours a day plus on the phone, just calling people and just trying to get someone else to change jobs. Basically, I just hated every second of it. So as I was walking out, I had a call from a friend who, long story short, put me in touch with Jaguar Land Rover for an engineering sort of job position. I got that job, and very quickly I fell into a test and development engineer job. So basically I was effectively test driving the cars as well as feedbacking into like engineering and other departments about how the cars should be set up, engines, that kind of stuff. Eventually, I was there for a while, I was there for 5 years, but eventually I specialised in engine cooling. So I used to look after basically the cooling system on the engines. Now that was probably the best job I've ever had. There was loads of travel. I would spend months in a year traveling anywhere from the Arctic Circle to drive on the ice for cold weather testing. We did China in the mountains. We did the Alps for high altitude stuff. We did Nardo in Italy for the top speed runs, because I've got a huge like oval track. Nürburgring. What else did we do? Dubai. Done my sand driver training. Done all my sort of advanced driver training throughout the years as well. And I loved that job. And a lot of people ask, why did I leave? I left because it was one of those things where you kind of hit a certain ceiling. So once you've done everything, unless you want to go into a managerial role where you just wear a suit and sit in an office and in meetings, there's not much else to do. You can go to other manufacturers, but in the UK, you either go to Rolls-Royce really down south or McLaren, or you go to Bentley, which is really up north. I didn't really want to do either of those. Also, the other thing I noticed in working in that environment, as great as it was, there was this like old school notion that you're paid for 8 hours. So regardless of how much work you get done, how productive you are, you're there for 8 hours. So for example, if I would come in and let's say I had 3 tests to do, right? And I would sort of get my head down, not get distracted, and do those tests. And let's say I got them done in 6 hours. Well, rather than sort of leaving 2 hours early, they would say, okay, well, go and find something else to do. Whereas if I took my time, had a few coffee breaks, and stretched it out to 8 hours, they would still say, oh, well done, good job. And that really annoyed me to the point where I had like a lot of, let's say, heated discussions with a manager about, I don't understand, like if I am more productive, why can I not leave earlier? Why do I then have to go and find more work to do, yet I'm paid exactly the same as the other people who are, let's say, stretching out their time? And there was a lot of that going on. There was a lot of people who were there for 20, 30 years who literally probably did like 4 or 5 hours of productive work a week. Yet because they played the game and they kind of made themselves look busy all the time, they were chilling, they were cool. And I just didn't understand that concept. On top of that, the actual testing we did started to sort of decline because of simulations, and CAD and computers kind of started to simulate some testing, so we didn't travel as much, and that all kind of sort of led into me getting a bit bored of that job. Now, I did actually pick up photography because of that job initially, because I started traveling a lot and I was going to all of these cool places. I thought, well, let me try and at least photograph and keep them as memories. I'm very glad I did. And that's when I got my first camera, which was, I believe, a Sony a6000. I used that for a little bit. I got a bit bored. I didn't really like it for some reason. I can't remember why I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. I sold it and I got a Canon M3 instead. It was like a tiny little mirrorless camera. And that camera I really, really liked. So at the same time as doing that, I also started a business with 2 guys that I used to work with at Jaguar Land Rover. And that business was, well, it was the single biggest lesson and probably one of the single biggest mistakes I've made in my 20s. And it taught me so much. So the business was basically importing and tuning up Japanese sports cars. So Nissan Skylines, Toyota Supras, Silvias, that kind of stuff. And there was 3 of us that started it, and the problem, that business was doomed from the start because you had 3 very, very different people doing it for 3 very different reasons. At the time, I was very young, I was very naive, and to me, image was everything, so I just wanted to make a load of money and then basically just show off to everyone that, look at me, I've got a cool car business. The other guy, he was into drifting, and all he wanted to do is use like the company as his sort of ticket to go drifting, and that all kind of worked together. And then the other chap, I'm not entirely sure where he kind of fitted in. I think he just liked the idea of having a car garage and tinkering with cars. So initially the business was okay, but very quickly fell apart. Our relationship fell apart. We were trying to pull the business in 3 different directions, and because we were all trying to do different things, like the business kind of didn't have an identity. We then did the worst possible thing we possibly could, and that is to take out a bank loan to buy a bunch of cars, sell them and make loads of money. And there were two critical issues there. The first one is taking a bank loan. The second one is the fact that the bank loan was against us personally and not the business, and that was like, looking back on it, I wish I would have just punched myself in the face. And there was a third reason why this was a mistake. I'm sure there's like more than that. So, long story short, that business lasted about 4 years before it completely went bankrupt. We've ran out of money, and we just ended up with an empty garage and a lot of debt, probably about £30,000 worth of debt between us. And obviously that was personally liable as well between all three of us, and I am still stuck with some of it as well. And yeah, so the business kind of went downhill at the same time as I was leaving the Jaguar job, and also at the same time as I was going for a breakup as well. So it was a bit of a weird period of time. The one interesting thing though, doing that business, is I did learn so much about how to start a business, how to finish, how to sort of close a business, how to run a business, how not to run a business, and how to do marketing. I was also doing all the photo and video for the cars. If I got a few photos of the cars and stuff, I'll put them up here. And generally speaking, I've actually picked up quite a lot of skills. And the way I see it is that business, or that 4-year period of time, was like my master's degree in life and in business and in making mistakes. But then the Jaguar job finished, the business went downhill, and I moved from the Midlands, which is where I was based at the time, back down to London. And I ended up getting a project management job. I can't really say anything else about it because it's that boring. It's literally sitting in the front of Excel, going to meetings, and it was for a company that dealt with automotive, like accessories, like belts, tensioners, basically not something that you would get very excited for in the morning. However, the pay was fantastic, the package was fantastic, and I worked from home before working from home was even a thing due to the pandemic. I quickly found that even though I had a nice company car and I had a much bigger salary and I was working from home, I just didn't feel 100%. I was just like, I don't know, like, what am I doing with my life? Where's everything going? Also, at that point, I was messing around with currency trading, like stock forex trading, all that kind of stuff. Safe to say, I lost about 10 grand doing that. I was just trying to make some quick money. Obviously, whenever you try and make some quick money, you end up losing all of it. But anyway, I digress. And I remember thinking, like, I still had the camera. At that point, I upgraded from the M3 Canon to the M5. And I did some traveling with this project management job. Went to India, went to China, went to Europe. So that was quite cool for photography. However, I was bored. Like, I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have anything to kind of get me going. All my friends, they were doing their own thing, and I was just like, you know, working for someone else and then just nothing. So, because I had the camera, I thought, you know what, I've spent all this money, let me just go walk around London and take some pictures. At least it'll clear my head. I started doing that, and after a little while, a few friends of mine said, oh, you know, your pictures are not too bad, maybe start and open an Instagram account. So I've opened an Instagram account and I started posting a few pictures. Long story short, I started to build a small following on Instagram because my skills as a photographer started to improve. Because obviously I was working from home, I was, let's say, playing the system a lot with regards to, I was pretty much out in London taking photos every other day. As you can imagine, 99.9% of photos from that period of time were complete and utter garbage. But I carried on, I persevered. Eventually, one of my best friends from school, Ajmal, he does like gym bodybuilding stuff. He asked me to do a few pictures for him. So I've done a few pictures for him, and then through him, I then met Mike Thurston, who's like he's pretty massive now on YouTube and on Instagram. And then I did some stuff with him for a while, and he's the kind of person who opened me to the idea of YouTube. Before that, I used to watch YouTube, but I never kind of thought I would ever sit in front of a camera. And then he kept sort of pushing me and saying, you know, you have a good skill as a photographer, maybe try YouTube. And that is when I was here in Richmond Park 1 year and 10 months ago, and I filmed the first video. Hello viewers, welcome to, what was that about? That was the worst intro ever, wasn't it? No, hello everyone, welcome to my first YouTube video. Actually, no, it's not first video, second video. I did actually do one about 2 months ago, and I've uploaded it, and it was just fucking awful. And obviously from that point, most of you have been following the journey, and I have been doing my day job as well as making these videos. It was never my intention to leave the day job. I was always kind of thinking of having YouTube on the side and then eventually progressing and maybe, you know, getting a promotion and doing something else. But then in the last sort of 6 months, I think, you know what, probably since the pandemic, I don't know, I've kind of been a bit like, I'm not against day jobs, I'm not against 9 to 5s. I think having a very good day job is fantastic. It gives you a lot of freedoms that you'll be surprised you just don't have if you're self-employed. It gives you peace of mind that you have a paycheck at the end of each month, and anything you make outside of that is just a bonus. So there are definitely many benefits to it, but I was kind of wondering that, you know, I was about to hit 30, and I was looking around and everyone's kind of settled in their life, and I thought, you know what, I can get a very good day job after this. I can go and get a fantastic project management job. But before doing that, let me see if I can maybe do this. And even if I, let's say, do YouTube full-time for 6 months, for a year, if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, then nothing's lost. I would have built a fantastic community. I would have made great friends. I would have improved as a photographer, as a videographer, as a storyteller. And my confidence would have, as a person, would have skyrocketed, which already has from the moment I started. Just being on camera with people walking around and looking at you and not caring is a huge thing. I think I can't stress enough how big that is in life, but I digress. So now you know a little bit more about my story, about where I come from, about how I sort of got here. And now I think actually for the next bit, with regards to where the channel is going, let's change locations, because I'm pretty sure there are like 10 birds over there that are having an argument, and they've been having an argument for the duration of this segment. So I apologise for that, and let's go somewhere else. Actually, as I'm walking to the next location, I just want to say that the reason I don't regret the forex trading or the business or any of that is because they taught me the biggest lesson, and that lesson is that the moment you start doing something, whether it's a job, a business, or whatever it is, with the sole goal, desire to make loads of money, ideally as quickly as possible, it will fail. Now, even if you do make the money, you will end up feeling empty, and you will end up feeling like, what next? You know, you've got all this money, you've got this business, and if it's not something that you enjoy, I can guarantee you that money, even if it comes, it will not mean anything. You will still feel down. You will still feel like, what are you doing with your life kind of approach. And with photography and with YouTube, the main difference is I started doing it as a hobby because I loved doing it. And even if you take away YouTube, you take away the income that I generate through photography and through making these videos, I would still do it, because for me, it's a creative process, it's exercise, it's just the ability to get out and about and see the world and have something tangible at the end of it to show myself and to show my friends and family, and just to remember all the memories. Alright, so now let me give you a quick update on the channel. What's going to happen? How is my new position in life going to change the channel? And all that sort of stuff. So I guess the first thing I just want to make clear, and this is a promise more so to myself than to anyone else, and that is I will not deviate from what the channel's about, and I will not deviate from my own moral compass when it comes to making videos, and especially when it comes to working with brands and sponsors. I'm at a stage now, a very fortunate stage, where many companies and people are reaching out, and in 99% of cases I always say no to them. I've only ever said yes to one brand deal, which is what's going to be next week. But and I don't want that to change. I don't want to sit here and plug a pair of shorts or a t-shirt or something that's completely irrelevant to you, to me, or to the purpose of this channel, just to make ends meet at the end of the month. And I would rather just go back, get a day job with a very good income, and then do this for fun. So for me, that's like a very, let's say, clear rule, that at the moment I feel I need to do brand deals and I need to do things for money which I personally don't want to do, or things which will not improve the video or the photos, and things which you will not find useful or relevant. That is where I will have a serious rethink about this as a full-time job. Also, at the moment, this YouTube channel alone can't support me 100%, so I will be dipping into savings, and I have a certain amount, let's say, in my savings, and if I do hit a certain threshold with regards to, let's say, emptying my savings account, I will also have a rethink about whether this is a viable long-term full-time solution. But until that happens, this is going to be just, like, say, full steam ahead. In terms of what the channel is going to be about, as I've said many times, this will always remain a photography first channel with, let's say, a inclination towards street photography. Street photography will always remain my favorite type of photography. I will not start doing portraits of babies or animals or anything like that. There will be definitely a high element of travel and travel photography, because to me that is very important. So do expect a bunch of travel related videos, but not in the typical fashion of, hey, I'm in Bali, hey, look at this waterfall, hey, I'm driving a Lamborghini, all that kind of stuff. But it'll be more in the way of a travel guide. So for example, I did one for the North Coast 500 road trip, and obviously the next week's video will be about the Cornwall road trip. So they're like photography related road trips, and I will be sharing my thoughts on the particular road trip, how I've done it, how you could do it, photo spots and various bits like that. And to be honest, that's all really for the video. I just want to say a huge thank you to every single one of you who has subscribed, who's watched, who's liked, who's commented, who's bought my presets, who's bought my zine, who's bought prints, who's bought workshops, and just who has interacted with anything that I do online over the last 2, 3, 4 years. It's because of you that I'm in this position where I can take this small risk and see if I can make this work. Also, a huge thank you to everyone who has stopped me in the street to say hello. Almost every time I go into London, someone will stop me to say hi, and that makes my day. So I do thank you so much for that, because it's so nice to put a face to the subscriber or the follower, and it's very nice to be able to just have a chat and just see the person behind the computer screen with regards to people who comment, like, all that kind of stuff. Right. I am gonna go home and edit this video, because I will be uploading it later on today, because I left it for the last minute as always. I wish you a good day, a good week. Thank you again for watching, and please do tune in next week when I'll be going and taking you along with me to a photography trip around Cornwall. Until then, stay safe, see you in a bit, bye. Thank you.